All right, we are back here again. So, one of the things that I wanted to try and tackle today was this fence. It's not horrible, but I think even just a simple wooden fence is going to basically be better than what we have right here. I don't do a lot of other cuts other than just 90-degree cuts, you know, like that. So once I square this up, I typically lock it in place. Any other kind of angled cuts, I'm going to pretty much do on my table saw. So for me personally, I think what we want to do is I just want to get a piece of 5/8 inch plywood and make a vertical fence like this, and then a support that just goes back. I'm going to raise this up. I think it's like 2.5 inches. I think I'm going to go 3 inches. And then we're just going to cut a 4-inch piece here. So I'm going to, over here, um, I just marked out 7 inches here. And I'm just going to cut this out. And you can see that this is going to be the 3 inch. There's a little bit of curve. And then there's 4 inches on the back, and then a little bit of extra wiggle room just in case I cut that wrong. So I'm just going to cut this piece out real quick, and then we're going to cut out some samples on the table saw, and then we'll line them up on this fence, and we'll see, or kind of in replacement of this fence, and see how it would look. Some of the people online make cool inserts here. I haven't really thought about that, mostly just because, like I said, I'm just going to be doing 90-degree cuts, so I didn't really know if that's going to be useful for me, and that's something we can go back and modify. But right now, I just want a simple 90-degree cut. So let's cut some pieces out and see how that looks. Okay, so here's what we're aiming for. So this is the 3-inch fence. Um, Nothing on there yet, but just lining it up with basically right exactly to the end of the saw blade in terms of what we can cut in the bottom so we don't lose anything. And then from there, like I said, because I'm not going to be doing 45 angle cuts, I don't need to account for this swinging action hitting the back of the fence from this piece. But if I did, so I laid the existing fence out like this, and just to show what you could do is I marked out exactly where the curve was, and I can start cutting away at this to give you something similar. I just didn't like that also this is only going to give you a little bit on top of that fence, which is how the way the saw is laid out. But like I said, for me, it doesn't really matter for this fence. I'm going to keep this one in case I need to for some reason. I can't cut something on my table saw, but so I laid these out, and then I just marked where the screw holes were on this one and aligned them with here. I'm going to make some slots so that the fence is more adjustable than just a hole, but it looks like the original screws are going to work fine. So I'll just create 2 slots right there, and then we will screw it into the board and see how that looks and make sure that we can get a good alignment. So I ended up not using the same screws. I just grabbed from my parts bin, but the hole is large enough slot such that I can move the fence pretty significantly. So we should be able to adjust the angle pretty well to get a nice 90 with the blade. So I'm going to go ahead and basically pre-drill the holes for these and screw this together, clamp it together, and get it glued up. And then we'll cut our first pass. And here is the final fence with the screws in it. Just held it in place with some clamps while I drove in some screws. I did the countersink screws on the drill press for this, just the front board, to make sure it lined up. But I think that's going to look pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mounted in, and then screw it up, and we can see if we can make our first cut. I don't know if I'm going to add supports to this or not. It's pretty strong with all the screws that I put in there, so I don't know if it's needed. But I'll go ahead and strap it down, square it up, and then make a cut, and we'll see. And here it is. So I made the cut and squared it up. It looks pretty awesome. Unfortunately, right when I made the cut, of course, Harbor Freight tools and the guard arm here completely shattered. So I'm gonna have to repair that. But should still at least be able to show you. So now we are to the point where it's very tight. Also, one other thing that I noticed is if you look here, it's actually lifted up on a washer. And the reason for that is this central board or central plate here is actually higher than the sides where it mounts. And the original fence actually came up here to make up for that difference. So what I did is I just put washers underneath where it was screwed in. So the last things I'm going to do here is I'm basically not sure if I'm going to make other changes to it yet. So I'm not going to put any like varnish on it or anything. The laser does still work. You can reach down through here so you can still see the laser line, which is kind of cool. So some decisions to make is if I do decide to change my mind and cut this piece out such that I can rotate it to 45-degree angles, do I need to put some supports here? Do I want to put a block in the back? Maybe something different for dust collection and for different angles? I don't know. But for now, this serves basically my entire purpose, which is awesome because this tool is actually quick and usable, except for the fact that it broke. But for cuts, it's significantly better than it was. So I'm going to call this good for now and probably move on to working on my table saw. It needs things like a zero clearance insert, probably needs a better extended fence. But the only other thing that this could use, actually, just thinking about it, is I could on this cart make a better one or something that has wings that come out. I'm going to need the same thing for my jointer, so probably come up with a design for that. But appreciate you guys checking out this video. I know it wasn't super detailed, but just kind of gives you a thought of what you could do for some of these cheaper tools just to make them a little bit more usable.